Hey y'all. So this morning I was making breakfast and I was sitting there pontificating like one does about just, nothing in particular. Also, you're sitting on my piano, which every time I touch it, it wobbles. So I'll try not to do that. This phrase popped into my brain as I was cooking my breakfast. Be boring. What? Why? Why that phrase? I have no clue. And then I started thinking further on it, and I really sort of chewed for a while, breakfast, chewing, all that, onto that for a minute, a while, however long, I don't know. But the idea just kept kind of resonating in my brain, and I wanted to sort of share that with y'all, I suppose. But first of all, if you are new here, my name is Lindsey, and I produce all kinds of just like keto-ish content, whether it is what I eat in a day videos or recipe videos. Sometimes I do a grocery haul. It's not as often that I do those, but I, sometimes we'll also sit down and have these kinds of conversations. Just this is what's in my brain, or this is what's going on in my life. So if any of that is intriguing to you and you want to know more, I encourage you to check out my channel and consider subscribing if you would like to do that. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And if you have any comments or thoughts throughout this video, I would love to hear them down in the comment section below. So I'm sitting there cooking my breakfast, thinking about this phrase, be boring, be boring. And I think that is something that in my life, I try not to be. I try not to be boring. I have 48 million different hobbies, different thoughts, different passions, if you will, and they're all very interesting. But whenever I sit down and get focused on the nitty-gritty, it's just kind of boring and mundane and borderline rote, if you will. And so I started to feel like be boring applied to food. And when we are in this sort of Ketovore space, the PSMF, the protein sparing modified fast space, the keto overall, just like high fat, low carb, moderate protein, or like I do, the high protein, moderate fat, low carb. Gosh, that was a moment. I almost lost the words on where I was with that. I think we are constantly trying to find the next recipe, constantly trying to think of what else can I do? How much more can I do with this? Ooh, it would be cool if, it would be nice if, or this thing would be so great as this next thing, or whatever the case may be. More interesting, more variables, more intriguing. Just interesting is really the only word that I can come up with at the moment. But the long and the short of it is that following this way of eating is not that exciting all the time. And being very comfortable with the boring is someplace that I really need to focus. I am happy to eat the same thing over and over again for a month straight, and then all of a sudden I'm bored with it and I want to eat something different. Or I will get I will fall down the rabbit hole of the YouTubes and find 1,000 different non-keto recipes and think, oh, I can totally turn that this way. I can modify that, or I can flip that on its head and it could become this thing. And that will just spark all of my energy, my creative energy, all of my focus will go to that. And really, I just need to stick with boring 99% of the time. I mean, my breakfast today was bacon and eggs. Fried 3 pieces of bacon in the skillet, went around, fried 3 eggs in the bacon grease, consumed it, had my black coffee, and everything was just fantastical. It was, it was good, it was nutritious, and it filled my belly. Those are pretty much the only criteria that need to be permanently in my criteria for food. And I wind up getting, kind of sucked into the idea like, ooh, this process, how do I rework this process to make this thing even better, or make it faster, or make it more interesting, or add a different flavor profile? How do I do those things? And, that's just part of my creative energy in general, but also it's one of those things that can consume me, and it's not the priority in my life. My priority is nourishing my body, as far as like this whole ketovore way of life is. My priority is nourishing my body, and then coming to the backside and saying, okay, now that we're nourished, we could do something fun over here, but let's just try to like meter that. Let's put a limiter on it and not try to go all the way overboard, when really and truly we just need those boring foods, just those bacon and eggs, or the cabbage and fried eggs. Oh, love fried cabbage with fried eggs, so good. Or a simple like this chicken that has been seasoned without like anything fancy or over the top or specialty, like salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic. Toss it on the grill. Boring, right? Simple, plain. But those things are just as nourishing and just as good for me, and just as good for my brain to not have to overthink the things, as coming up with all of the variety and all of the like overwhelming options. And there are limitless options, right? And this kind of touches a little bit back on my video where I talked about my ideas are limitless, my time is finite. And at some point, I have to stop giving full vent to those ideas that are, you know, constantly just rolling through my brain. I have to tell my brain, you know, let's just bring it down a minute. Let's be boring for a little bit. Let's just make the cabbage and eggs. Let's just make the chicken and the broccoli. Let's just make burgers and be done with it. Let's just do the simple things and be content. Just be content. And that has just kind of, I don't know, been on my brain here today, especially. And I think what kind of spurned that perhaps was not just the bacon and the eggs over here, but also the fact that earlier I had gone through and like 3 days this week has been bacon and eggs for breakfast. And I find breakfast foods to be some of my favorite. There's just not a whole lot of variety. And yes, making my eggnog French toast was clutch. So good. I'm not doing that every day. I'm not. I mean, I might get on a kick for a while if I've got a loaf of PSMF bread or egg white bread, but I'm not going to go through and do that every single day. Every single day, I will happily crack eggs into a skillet and eat the boring old eggs. Well, they're not old, but you know what I mean. Just the same old, same old. I will happily eat that with my mayonnaise that I make and my Cholula on top. It's so good, and it's so boring. There's nothing fancy about it, but you know, that's the way that the majority of this lifestyle for me goes, and I need to be good with that. And I've been a little bit like amped up and like hyped up about the, like, there's so many pieces of our lives that are kind of like shifting into place here right now. And because I have no ability to control all those things, and I do have the ability to control the food and that sort of thing, I think, ooh, I should just put all that energy over here into the food, when really I just need to hang out in Boringville and just be content. So if that's you this week, I would love to hear about that in the comments down below, and I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna drink some water.